Well, good morning, everyone. On behalf of the National Museum of the Pacific War and the Admiral Nimitz Foundation, it's my pleasure and a privilege to welcome you here today. My name is Monty Marshall. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor and currently a museum volunteer. Although from 1994 to 1999, I served on the staff of the museum here in Fredericksburg. It's an honor for me to take part in this special ceremony in memory of Lieutenant Junior Grade Frederick Roger Stieglitz, killed in action in World War II, and First Lieutenant Julius Niles, United States Army, killed in action in World War I. We always like to start off our plaque dedications with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we have some folks designated to lead us. Please stand as you're able. And the flag is there behind the tree, but
up here.
or on the plaza.
Yeah, go up.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I believe we're going to go ahead and do the prayer at this particular point. Who's leading the prayer?
Can I do so kind?
Just be quiet.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the families that are gathered here today.
We thank the men and women who fought for our freedom and equality.
We pray that you continue to watch over us in our day-to-day lives.
We know that Frederick fought for us even when times were harsh.
We thank you for all your many blessings. Keep everyone safe in their travels and guide us to trust you in all that we do. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Beautifully done. Thank you. Fleet Admiral Chester William Nimitz was born in 1885 at his maternal grandparents' home about a block west of us on Main Street, on the other side of the street. On this location at the time, and for many years following, was the Nimitz Hotel, built by the Admiral's paternal grandfather, Charles Henry Nimitz. Shortly before the Admiral's death in 1966, he was approached by a group of citizens from Fredericksburg who asked him for permission to reopen the Nimitz Hotel as a museum in his honor. The Admiral agreed, but with two stipulations. First, that the museum be restored to its original steamboat hotel appearance, and second, that the museum be dedicated not to him, but to those who served under his command during World War II in the Pacific. In the Admiral's honor, the motto of the museum has always been and will always be, we inspire our youth by honoring our heroes. Today, the word hero is attached to celebrities and sports players But these are not the true heroes, are they? It's the people like Lieutenant Junior Grade Stieglitz and First Lieutenant Niles. They're the ones who exemplify the true meaning of heroism. We honor these two heroes today. They and their fellow servicemen and women stepped forward to do their duty willingly because they were patriots, ready to stand in harm's way to protect their homeland from those who would destroy it. They gave up their lives for us. Their sacrifices guaranteed that the way of life we enjoy today would be preserved. Mere thanks aren't enough. To them we owe a debt that can never be repaid, but can and must be honored. In adding Lieutenant Stieglitz's plaque to the limestone walls of these hallowed grounds of remembrance, the place where Admiral Chester W. Nimitz spent his earliest years of life, he is now memorialized with a multitude of others, especially the sailors, soldiers, Marines, and airmen who once defended our freedom in the Pacific War. Each memorial is now a permanent part of the National Museum of the Pacific War and a perpetual invitation for guests to remember and say thank you. And now, John, I believe you're going to share a memorial.
We are gathered at this memorial to pay tribute to a long-forgotten American patriot and hero of World War II, Navy Lieutenant Junior Grade F. Roger Stieglitz, husband to Georgia Marie Stieglitz, son of Fred and Ethel Stieglitz, he was the best man at our parents' wedding, Gilbert and Bernice Stieglitz, and he is our second cousin, for whom our brother Roger is named a year or two after Lieutenant Stieglitz died in World War II. We actually know very little about all that fighter pilot Stieglitz did before he died in aerial combat in the Pacific in 1944. We don't know about the lives of American infantry and Marines saved by his pounding of the beaches and the aerial coverage provided during our island hopping campaign. The enemy fighters and bombers sent to the bottom of the sea or run off in aerial combat, ships and submarines that were saved, successful carrier landings under extremely hazardous conditions, and more. He was clearly challenged every single day and lived on the edge, under the constant threat of dying on every single mission he flew. But what we do have is a small sample of recorded heroism reported in two 1944 Associated Press newspaper articles, one entitled "St. Louis Hero of Truck Island Action," and a second article, "St. Louis Area Soldiers Win the Distinguished Flying Cross," quote unquote, where Roger was a subject in both articles. He clearly served with extraordinary courage and distinction in the United States Navy from May 1942 until his death in aerial combat on 19 June 1944. Frederick Roger Stieglitz was born on 25 October 1919 in St. Louis, Missouri. He graduated from Cleveland High School and attended Westminster College and Washington University, where he played football, until the war broke out in Europe. At the age of 22, he was drawn to serve freedom's cause. He quit college to join the Royal Canadian Air Force, where he received his wings as sergeant pilot in November of 1941. When the U.S. was attacked at Pearl Harbor, and we declared war in December of 1941, Roger resigned from the Canadian Air Force and enlisted in the United States Navy in May of 1942. In June, he accepted an appointment as an aviation cadet and reported to the Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida. In November, he earned his Wings of Gold as a Navy aviator and was commissioned an ensign in the Naval Reserve. As a side note, I will tell you that our 41st president, George H.W. Bush, who was 5 years younger than Roger, received his Wings of Gold as the youngest naval aviator 6 months later and flew an Avenger torpedo attack aircraft off the carrier USS San Jacinto. And President Bush was shot down 2.5 months later after Roger was killed. But he was rescued by a sub. Roger's training would soon be put to use as a fighter pilot in the Pacific Fleet. Assigned to Fighter Squadron 25 aboard the USS Cowpens, a light aircraft carrier. The Cowpens had 34 aircraft aboard, most of which were F-6F Hellcats, the best naval fighter aircraft in the world at that time. In 1943 and 44, it ruled the skies of the Western Pacific. As one of the Navy's top aces quipped, quote, "I love this airplane so much that if it could cook, I'd marry it." The Cowpens, with Roger and his fighter squadron, set sail for warfighting in early October 1943, supporting strikes on Wake Island and other islands in the Western Pacific. In January 1944, the Cowpens joined the very large carrier Task Force 58 with 15 aircraft carriers, 7 battleships, 115 cruisers, escort carriers, and destroyers for the invasion of the Marshall Islands. Roger and his mates pounded Kwajalein and Eniwetok to prepare for the assault landings on 31 January 1944. Roger's squadron struck at Truk Island on 16 and 17 February 1944, and in the Marianas on the 21st and 22nd of February. The Cowpens and Roger's squadron went on to attack the Western Carolines, and his squadron fighters provided air and anti-submarine patrols during the raids on 4 other islands in March of 1944. After operating off New Guinea during the invasion of the Hollandia from 21 to 28 April, Roger's squadron again took part in the strikes on Truk, where Roger was commended for saving 2 cruisers of the force by warning them of the enemy torpedoes that were streaking toward them. His warning allowed these ships to evade the potential devastating attacks. On the 6th of June, 1944, Cowpens, as part of Task Force 58, began operations in the Marianas. Roger's squadron struck the island of Saipan to aid the assault troops and made raids on Iwo Jima, Pagan, Rota, and Guam. He flew countless combat missions from the decks of the Cowpens, supporting our troop landings and countering Japanese air attacks on our Navy ships. On June 19, 1944, the most significant and pivotal naval sea battle of the war took place. At the end of the day, the Japanese naval threat ended. This was the Battle of the Philippine Sea, the largest naval air battle in the history of the U.S. fleet. Under the command of Admiral Spruance, 5th Fleet Commander, and Admiral Mitcher, Commander of Task Force 58, our naval pilots, including Roger, intercepted over 400 Japanese fighters and bombers. By the end of the day, our naval aviators had dominated the air battle, sending between 350 and 400 Japanese aircraft into the sea. Task Force 58 lost 17 carrier aircraft in aerial combat. Lieutenant Roger Stieglitz was one of those lost that day. He was first officially reported as missing in action, which devastated his family, and leaving only a glimmer of hope that he would be found alive. By Navy regulation, 1 year and 1 day later, on 20 June 1945, he was declared killed in action. The 19 June 44 naval air battle was termed the Marianas Turkey Shoot by the Navy, and proudly declared the best day that the U.S. Navy fighters ever had. And there is a display inside the museum about the Marianas Turkey Shoot. Sadly, Roger and other pilots who were lost that day could not take part in the celebration and the pride of victory. But for his heroism and action in combat, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for action against the enemy by shooting down one plane and severely damaging another, and for intercepting a Japanese dive bomber attempting to attack our fleet and sending it to the bottom of the sea. The skill and daring of Roger and many other carrier pilots often go unrecognized in the annals of history. Yet they were crucial to our successes in winning World War II. Roger did not change the course of the war. To many, he is just another casualty of the war, with his name listed obscurely on the Honolulu National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu, and now here in Texas. But to those now long deceased immediate family members, his comrades in arms, and those of us who have tried to know him 74 years after his death, he'll forever be remembered as that handsome, smiling man in his pilot's uniform, confident and ready to face and defeat the enemy in the skies over the Pacific, ready to give his life in defense of his country. Roger, America should aspire to your example. You gave up your own bright future for the defense of your country. You honored your family, your community, and your country. Your wife, your parents, your family lived out their lives never knowing what really happened to you, never having the privilege of laying you to rest or saying a final goodbye. You are a true American hero, and you will not be forgotten by this family. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice for our nation that we love. I will quote from the Bible, John 15, verse 13, "There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends." Roger Stieglitz laid down his life for his fellow countrymen. Now I'll ask Bill Smallword to play.
Everyone, please stand for the sounding of taps.
If this were actually the funeral for Roger Stieglitz, the folded flag would be presented to the family, and the officer in charge of the funeral service would say these words: "On behalf of the President of the United States and the Chief of Naval Operations, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's sacrifice to his country and a grateful Navy."
Let me say that honoring Lieutenant Roger Stieglitz today is not to take away from the service and sacrifice of other families represented here today. I am certain that there are others, relatives and loved ones of families that we should recognize for their service to the country. I know that Pam's uncle Herb served in the Army in World War II and landed at Normandy in 1944. If there are others who would like to name a family member, please do so at this time. Okay. Carl Kerberg, who was our uncle, married to Bernice's sister. He also served in the Army. Lisa.
My father's brother, Paul. My father's brother, Paul Byers.
Your father's brother?
Paul Byers served in World War II and died on Normandy Beach on D-Day.
Landed at Normandy on D-Day in 1944. And did he survive?
He did not survive. He died on D-Day.
He died there in France?
Yes, in Normandy Beach.
Normandy Beach. God bless him and his soul. Any other friends or family members served in World War II or any war?
My grandfather, World War I.
Your grandfather?
World War I, and my dad was in the Korean War.
And your dad was in the Korean War. Did they both survive?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for their service. World War I and the Korean War. Kiki's family.
Sean.
Yes.
I forgot. My Uncle Dallas.
Uncle
Dallas Byers also served at Iwo Jima and was actually present when the flag was raised.
at Iwo Jima.
Yes, and he did survive.
He did survive. Was he a Marine?
He was in the Army.
Infantry? Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. Our family also had an American hero who fought and died 100 years ago on a battlefield in France during World War I. First Lieutenant Julius Niles, an American patriot and hero, was the brother of our maternal grandmother, Grandma T, for Tiefenbrunn, and therefore our great uncle. At the age of 21, he enlisted in the Army in February of 1905, again in 1908, and again in 1911, according to the records that Dennis helped find. He served with General Blackjack Pershing in World War I. On September 12, 1918, he was killed leading his infantry platoon during Operation St. Mihiel, which was a critical operation to eliminate the German-held St. Mihiel salient and threaten Paris and central France. And this was the first highly successful engagement by Blackjack Pershing's First Army. With the personal approval of General Pershing, he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, which I should tell you is the second highest military award that can be given to a member of the United States Army for extreme gallantry and risk of life in actual combat with an armed enemy force. The Distinguished Service Cross is second only to the Medal of Honor. Our cousin Bob Tiefenbrunn actually has the medal that was given to Julius Niles. His award reads, quote, "The President of the United States of America, authorized by the Act of Congress, July 9th, 1918, takes pride in presenting the Distinguished Service Cross posthumously to First Lieutenant Julius Niles, United States Army, for extraordinary heroism in action while serving with the 6th Infantry Regiment, 5th Division, near St. Mihiel, France, on 12 September 1918. While leading his platoon across an open space in front of a wood, Lieutenant Niles was confronted by a sudden and terrific fire from German machine guns, which killed several of his men. Wishing to make a flank attack and finding it difficult to pass the orders along, he rose up and started to the front to wave his platoon to give the necessary orders, but was killed before he could get the flank attack started. End of quote. He is buried in the St. Mihiel American Military Cemetery, located almost at the center of the salient, where the majority of the 4,153 military gave their lives. It is the third largest of the 8 permanent World War I American military cemeteries that are memorialized in Europe. While born in St. Louis, he entered the Army from the state of Colorado. His name is listed on the walls of the Colorado Freedom Memorial that honors every fallen Colorado military veteran by name from every branch of service and every conflict dating back to the Spanish-American War in 1896. The memorial, which is located in Aurora, Colorado, is made up of glass panels on which nearly 6,000 Colorado names are honored, including First Lieutenant Julius Niles. Julius, we thank you for your service and sacrifice to our nation. God bless your soul. Taps, please. Almost done. Before we sing God Bless America, I want to recognize and thank members of the museum staff who helped us organize and set up this ceremony. Monty Marshall welcomed us, Bill Smallwood, our bugler. And a special thanks to Stephanie Hagee for her dedicated help to Dennis and to me as we prepared for this dedication ceremony, and for designing and printing the program that was handed out. Stephanie did that for us. The family thanks you for today and for what you do for all of our service personnel and veterans to remember the sacrifice made for freedom. May God bless you. We will now sing God Bless America, printed in your program. And we'll be led by Aspen. Can you lead us in God Bless America?
Yeah. That's good.
Let's start. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the valleys, to the oceans, white with gold. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Please be seated. All family gathered here. Now you know about two of our family members who gave their lives in defense of our country in mortal combat, along with other family members represented here as well. Please think about their service and their sacrifice and the sacrifice of their families, who lived with that loss for the rest of their lives. Pass their stories on to your families so that we all remember that they were part of a great American tradition of courageously fighting for freedom's cause and selfless service to country. As you raise your flags next Memorial Day and Veterans Day, remember your family members, Julius and Roger and others named here, and all who served and have served and are currently serving in the armed forces of our great country. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Oh, I forgot. I have here Roger's aviator goggles. Lieutenant J.G. Roger Stieglitz aviator goggles that were given to me by his parents. Are they not something? I will. These are Roger's aviator goggles, and what I will do is I can pass these around. You can look at them, and Roger Stieglitz is the caretaker of these goggles. He's the caretaker. Thank you very much. We're going to pass them around if you'd like to look at those. Pass those. Yeah, I almost forgot. Roger brought those all the way from St. Louis, or not, from Chicago. Thanks, Roger, for bringing those.
John? What they do, what is so special about them, how you can see so truly. And I was beginning to read what was special about the Bible. I thought there was so much better.
I don't know that story.
It's inside.
Oh, it is? Oh. All right, you want me to read it?
Check them out.
I'll read it. All right, probably have to put my glasses on for this one, it's small. The cylindrical lenses used for transport aviation goggles were computed by an eminent scientist. They are absolutely distortion-free. The optical center of this precision lens is in a direct line with straight-ahead vision. Displaced images, eye strain, and, quote, goggle headache, unquote, are eliminated. American transport aviation goggles may be had with either white lenses or glare-proof Colabar lenses. Colabar lenses do not alter color values. Red is still red, green is still green, yet glare is completely shut out. Special note, transport goggles can be fitted with corrective lenses by means of a special binder and lenses retaining ring, which holds the corrective lens at just the correct distance behind the protected lenses. Now you know about those ones.
Interesting.
Transport goggles. Thank you.
Yeah.
Get a close-up of this, Jerry?
For all of us connected to the National Museum of the Pacific War and the Admiral Nimitz Foundation, we are so grateful for your presence here today. May God bless you, and once again, may God bless the United States of America. Now, it's time to unveil the plaque. And I don't know if you've got folks designated to do that, but the plaque is covered up between the flags. And once the plaque is unveiled, please feel free to take as many photos as you would like. Thank you all so much.
Over there, as you would like, if you're able. Yes, yes. Very much.
She went up there. I had to go up there.
I was like the 1992.
Oh, yeah. I like your hat. Where do you live? Long way home. Yeah. My pleasure. So glad y'all are here.
Oh, my pleasure. My granddaughter was Plaque over there, and I know how much it means to me. So, I give her that. Stop. And just so you know,
Everybody still coming? Anybody else coming over? John, Jim. Kara, you want to help? Kara, take it off. Take that off. There we go. Here, here. Thank you, Kara. Very good.
People are taking pictures now.
That's the plaque.
Go by Dad.
Is it what?
Sorry.
What is it?
Go by Dad.
So these were like an extra piece. It's probably obviously.
Here. John, do you want me to take a picture with you next time?
Set your hand.
Football player, lots of fun in college.
You what?
I gotta do something.
You were? You okay now?
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
How about that?
Where was the cow piss? Cow piss was sailed from San Francisco.
Do you want to come say that anymore?
After that,
What? Can you say it again? Okay, good.
when we go back to it, he did it.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad.
That's the class. Numerous wars. Never knew what happened.
Somebody else take your picture, Roger?
Brian did. We all know about the election.
Good man, Brian.
The little one.